back to Sarasota County, Florida for the civil case against Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. The Kowalski family is suing the hospital for over $200 million in punitive and compensatory damages. The family claims that the hospital wrongfully filed child abuse claims against Maya's mother, Beata Kowalski. We're going to continue listening to neurologist Dr. Carl Barr, so let's head back into the courtroom to listen to some of that testimony now.
And she did have dystonic posturing of her feet sitting in the wheelchair, but
where is that in your record?
It's not in my record.
Isn't that a significant finding that should be in your record if it exists?
Yes. But this is one of the problems with modern medicine and charting. We were using a scribe at that time, and so the scribe is supposed to take down things from the discussion. And so it wasn't put in the note. There's a standard template, and if they hit the standard template, they're not going to do it.
That scribe is supposed to take down what you tell him to take down, correct?
Correct.
And so you didn't tell him to take down posturing of the feet?
I can't remember specifically if I did or not, but I specifically recall that.
Isn't that why we have medical records, so we don't have to trust memories?
But records aren't infallible, right?
They're not infallible, they're summaries, but they're supposed to contain significant findings, correct?
Objection.
I agree.
The objection's overruled. The answer stands.
So when you saw this patient in February, you didn't find any indication of changes in her skin color?
Correct.
You didn't find any indication in changes in the thickness of the skin?
Correct.
Or shininess of the skin?
Correct.
Or changes in her nail beds?
Correct.
Or changes in color of the skin?
That is correct.
Okay. And that's why you told us before that you didn't find any objective evidence yourself. You took the diagnosis from the mother, correct?
Based upon previous evaluations from other physicians as well.
Did you ever see their records?
Can the witness please be allowed to answer the question? Okay.
I have not received the record.
I'll be more careful, Your Honor. I apologize.
Thank you.
Did you see any other records?
No,
When did you review the records of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
I have not.
You never reviewed the records of Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
I was never requested to review records from Johns Hopkins. Never provided to me.
I see. Who have you spoken with from Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital?
No one that I can recall.
Have you seen any records of this patient's care at any point other than this morning on the monitor, other than your own?
No.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, you've never seen any records from All Children's Hospital, correct?
Correct.
You've never seen any from Lurie's Children's Hospital.
Correct.
You've never seen any from Tampa General Hospital.
Correct.
You've never seen any from Dr. Kirkpatrick.
Not that I can recall.
You've never seen any from Dr. Hanna.
No.
You've never seen any from Dr. Spiegel.
No.
And you've never seen any from subsequent admissions to Johns Hopkins Hospital, Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, correct?
Correct.
Then on what do you base an opinion what this child's diagnosis was between October of 2016 and January of 2017? Did you ever see her during that period?
Objection. It's multiple questions. Well,
I meant for the first to be a statement to predicate the question.
objection to predicate.
Folks, you asked what was it based on. That is the question that stands, and you can answer that first question.
So what it was based on was the history from the mother primarily and her physical condition.
No, sir, I'm sorry, I didn't make myself clear.
Okay.
That's what your diagnosis or what your record was based on when you saw this patient in February of
Sure.
2016, correct?
Correct.
You just told counsel a few minutes ago that you thought the diagnosis of CRPS was correct between October of 2016 and January of 2017.
Correct.
You never saw her during that period, did you?
That is correct.
You never saw any records from during that period, did you?
No.
Then you have no basis for that opinion, correct?
Objection.
Overruled, you can answer the question.
The nature of complex regional pain syndrome is that it does not typically just get better. So if she was still experiencing symptoms and signs during that period, then it's likely, most likely, that complex regional pain syndrome persisted throughout that time period.
But you have no information about what signs or symptoms that she was experiencing during that period, correct?
Objection. Ask and answer.
Overruled, he can answer that question.
I don't have any objective data.
And you personally never made a diagnosis of CRPS in this patient, correct?
I agreed with the diagnosis. of
That's
CRPS.
correct.
Correct.
What was my question, sir? Did you personally ever make a diagnosis of CRPS in this patient?
No, I did not.
When you saw this patient in 2016, in February 2016, the history you were given was that Dr. Kirkpatrick had made the diagnosis in August of 2015 in Tampa. Is that right?
Correct.
And we covered this briefly, but I want to emphasize it by asking you whether you ever got any history from the mother, or anybody else for that matter, that this child had spent time at Tampa General Hospital, or what the diagnosis there was.
I don't recall specifically, but I don't think so.
You never got any information from All Children's Hospital, period, correct?
Correct.
So you didn't know that a pediatric neurologist had seen Ms. Kowalski in the summer of 2015 at All Children's Hospital. You didn't know that, did you?
No, I did not.
And you didn't know she had been to Lurie's Children's Hospital to be worked up for her pain at that time, back in the summer of 2015. Is that right?
Yes, I don't have any recollection of that.
Okay. But going back to your visit in February of 2016, you were told by the mother, could we put that up? I'm sorry, I didn't give you a reference. You don't know what I'm talking about. Sorry. 1039-0016. So if we track through the history you were given here, you were told that Dr. Kirkpatrick believes the RSD was caused by a right ankle injury.
Correct.
And then you were told she had a ketamine treatment in September that improved symptoms for 6 days.
Correct.
Is that right?
Correct.
And then the symptoms came back.
Correct.
In fact, her symptoms then recurred and were worse than before. Is that the history you're given?
Correct.
All right. And then over the next month, her condition worsened to the point where she could not eat or drink and was constantly in pain.
Correct.
Might a doctor conclude from that the ketamine didn't work?
Well, unfortunately, that's the nature of ketamine. Even when they do ketamine comas, it tends not to last. So some of the studies have shown that it will last up to 12 weeks, but it doesn't persist that long.
You mentioned before that you tried to find someone in your orbit of referrals who did ketamine comas.
Correct.
You couldn't find anybody.
Correct.
Had you ever even heard of ketamine coma for CRPS to that point?
I was aware of ketamine coma as being tried for painful conditions, but I didn't ever know of anybody being treated with it before.
Okay. And had you ever heard of a 9-year-old child being subjected to a ketamine coma for CRPS up to that point in your practice?
No, I had not.
Do you use ketamine to treat CRPS?
I don't treat CRPS typically, and I have not used ketamine for that.
Okay. Why not?
Well, for one, it's a very potent anesthetic, so it requires, that you're aware of all the potential side effects and have the ability to be prepared for catastrophic events should they occur with the administration. So that's usually done in a hospital setting. So you have to have a hospital that's willing to do that or allow you to do that. And you have to have the other expertise from anesthesiology or intensive care physicians to be able to monitor the patient during the time the coma is occurring. So it takes, a team of people and the proper facilities to do that. So that's why I tried to find out if anybody would be willing to do it, but there was no, and it's also not currently an FDA approved procedure, so they were reluctant to do any of that.
Okay. And is one of the problems that you run into with ketamine withdrawal symptoms?
You can't have it with
Outside the scope.
Overruled. You can answer. You can answer.
well, typically any of those types of medications you can have withdrawal from, yes.
That's well known, right?
Correct.
So let's go back to 1039-16. And we've covered that her symptoms recurred worse after the ketamine she received in September of 2015, according to the history here. And then it says over the next month, her condition worsened to the point where she could not eat or drink and was constantly in pain. I apologize, we've covered that. And she was on several pain medications: gabapentin, Dilaudid, Tramadol, Valium, hydrocodone, Dilaudid, morphine, and several others with no improvement, correct?
Correct.
And that was when she got referred for this ketamine coma by Dr. Kirkpatrick, correct?
As far as I understand, yes.
And then she related having had an IVIG treatment and she told you that she thought that was effective, correct?
Correct.
And in point of fact, that is why you chose to treat this patient with IVIG, correct?
That is partially the reason. The other thing is whether or not it was an appropriate treatment for her symptoms and her condition.
And you felt it was?
Yes, I did.
And it was basically a situation where you were trying the treatment to see if it worked for her?
Correct.
Okay. And did it?
By reports, it did, yes.
She got better?
She improved. She never got to where she was back to normal functioning.
Okay. But you understood that she got better and then she relapsed, if you will.
Correct.
To the point where the mother wanted to increase the frequency of the treatments.
I don't think that she relapsed. It was a matter of they saw effectiveness and then it waned. And then she had another treatment and she had improvement again.
So during this period when she was getting these treatments, she was getting them as an outpatient, correct?
She started as an inpatient and then we switched her to outpatient
Right.
therapy.
And you wrote a prescription for her to get the IVIG IV, correct?
Correct.
Did you know that she was an infusion nurse?
Yes, I did.
Did you know she worked for Corian?
I didn't know who she worked for, but I did know she was an infusion nurse.
Your Honor, may we approach?
All right, so you were just listening to the cross-examination of Dr. Carl Barr, and when we come back, we will have more of his testimony. We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned.